what is the charge? So charge, as we know, is the inherent property of the matter, and all the matter in this universe are composed of atoms, and these atoms may further combine together as molecule, but the basic entity is the atom. And every one of you, I'm sure that you are all aware of the atomic structure. As we know that there are three fundamental particles, namely proton, electron and neutron, which combine together to form the atom. Basically, there is one portion inside the atom which is known as the nucleus, and protons and neutrons are together there inside the nucleus. And these protons and neutrons are held together with the help of one of the strongest force of the nature, which is known as the nuclear force. And the nuclear force is responsible. That is why these particles, which are the particles, proton and neutrons, which are held tightly together to form the nucleus. And electrons are very light particles, which revolve around the nucleus in various circular orbits, and that is why the region is formed some kind of a spherical region. Suppose this is a nucleus and the electron is revolving around it in various circular orbit, and so by combining all these circular orbits, what we are going to get is spherical region. Just out of the way, I'm asking you, are you aware of this concept of electron cloud? Basically what happens is the electron revolve around the nucleus in such a fast manner in various circular orbits that its visibility is blurred out. That is in various circular orbits which are combined together to form a spherical region. You can watch this out in this animation, that when this electron revolve around the nucleus in various circular orbits, then finally what we get a smoky region around the nucleus, and our eyes cannot detect the exact location of electron at any given instant of time. And what we see is the smoky region around the nucleus where there is a possibility of finding the electron. And this is the electron cloud. These fundamental particles have masses. Mass of proton is 1.6726 into 10 raised to the power minus 27 kg. And mass of one neutron is 1.6749 into 10 raised to the power minus 27 kg, almost same as that of the proton. On the other hand, electron is a very light particle whose mass is 9.1 into 10 raised to the power minus 31 kg. If you want to compare it with proton and neutron, then you can write it like this, 0.00091 into 10 raised to the power minus 31 kg. And that is how you can see that the electron is a very, very light particle in comparison to the proton and as well as the neutrons. Other than the mass, these fundamental particles have additional property which is known as the charge. And this property is carried out by the proton and electrons only. Neutron don't have any kind of charge. And the unit of measurement of the charge is coulomb in SI system. The electronic charge is 1.6 into 10 raised to the power minus 19 coulomb, which is same as the charge possessed by the protons. We'll explore this a little further later on. So as the mass gives rise to gravitational force, this property of charge gives rise to electrical force between the objects. And there are two kinds of charges on these particles. One is that possessed by the electrons, and the other one which is possessed by the protons. Neutrons don't have such property known as the charge. Once Benjamin Franklin observed that these two kinds of charges has a tendency to cancel the effect of each other. Suppose there are two objects having the charge same as that of the electrons. When these two objects are held at a separation, say r, then they are found to repel each other with a particular amount of force. As we know that because of the characteristic of the mass, there should be a force of attraction between these two particles, but in spite of that, there is overall repulsion because gravitational force is there, but additional force, electrical force is also there, and which is very, very much large in comparison to the gravitational force, which is negligible in comparison of this force. So when two objects having charges equivalent to that of one electrons are held at separation, then they are found to repel each other with a particular amount of force. And when two objects having the charge same as that of one protons are kept at the same separation, then they are found to repel each other with the same amount of the force. And on the contrary, when one object having charge equivalent to that of electron and the other having charge equivalent to that of proton, these two particles are kept at the same separation, then they are found to attract each other with almost the same amount of the force. So from these observations, we can infer that the magnitude of charge possessed by the electron or the proton must be the same, because the force of repulsion is same whether it is a case of electrons or the two protons. And on the other hand, electron and proton are found to attract each other. So it indicates that there is a difference in the characteristic of charge possessed by electron and the proton. And Benjamin Franklin observed that these two kinds of charges has a tendency to cancel the effect of each other when they are put together. That means, suppose one object is there having the charge equivalent to that of one electron and the other object is there having charge equivalent to that of proton. When these two objects are kept at the same location, and then suppose another object having the charge of electron, the proton is kept nearby, then this particular system behaves as if it is a neutral particle. It doesn't apply any force on this charged particle. So, because of this, Benjamin Franklin observed that the charge of electron has got a tendency to cancel the effect of charge of that proton. Just like there are two positive and negative numbers. Suppose if I ask you that add +2 and -2, then result of course is going to be the 0. That is how the charge of electron and charge of proton behave with each other. And based on this observation, Benjamin Franklin introduced the concept of positive and negative charge. You must be already aware of that. Proton has got the positive charge and electrons has got the negative charge. Benjamin Franklin observed that these two kinds of charges has got a tendency to cancel the effect of each other. Then he decided that one of these charges must be given a positive sign and the other one must be given a negative sign, and then these positive and negative signs are to be used like numbers. And there is one interesting story behind why electron was given the negative charge and proton was assigned the positive charge. Are you aware of that story? I guess you're not. Why? Because there is no such a thing. Because it was the fact that one of the particles was to be assigned the positive and the other one was to be assigned the negative, and it's just purely a matter of chance that electron was given a negative charge. There is no logic behind it. So there is no such story or there is no such logic why the electron was assigned the negative or the proton as the positive. It is just a matter of chance. Otherwise, it would have been opposite. There is a tendency of cancellation of effect of each other. That is why Benjamin Franklin introduced this concept of positive and negative charges. In the natural state, in any atom, the number of electrons are always same as the number of protons. So net charge is always 0. As we know that charge on the proton is 1.6 into 10 raised to the power minus 19 coulomb, and charge on electron is 1.6 into 10 raised to the power minus 19 coulomb. Proton was assigned as the positive sign, electron was assigned as the negative sign. Since protons are confined inside the nucleus and they are tightly held together with the help of the nuclear force, so there is no chance of proton coming out of the atom or the nucleus. So these are the electrons only, due to which the charged bodies are created, because in natural states all atoms have the same number of electrons and the protons, so net charge is 0. So if we can somehow remove the electrons or add some electrons, in that case we can create the imbalance of charge. As we know that protons reside inside the nucleus and they are tightly held together with the help of the nucleus force, which is very strong. It is the strongest force of the nature, so there is no chance of proton coming out of the atom. So these are only electrons, and because of the transfer of the electrons only, the charged bodies are created. And suppose one object gains one electron, one extra electron, then it gets negatively charged, and one that loses the electron gets positively charged. So the gainer of electron gets a negative charge and the loser of the electron gets positive charge. And on the other hand, as we know that mass of each electron is 9.1 into 10 raised to the power minus 31 kg. So whenever there is a transfer of electron, then associated mass transfer is always there. So whenever some object attains the negative charge, it means electrons are coming to that object. Electrons are absorbed by that object, so its mass is going to increase. And in case the object attains the positive charge, then what happens? Because of the loss of electron, its mass decreases slightly. As we know that electrons cannot be cut further. So the charge on any object can be created only in the integral multiple of the electronic charge, because there is always be a whole number of electrons which are transferred from one body to another. Suppose there are n number of electrons which are transferred, then the charge attained by the body will be either plus or minus n times E, where n is the number of electrons added or lost by that object. And corresponding the transfer of mass will be n into mass of a single electron. As we know that, suppose we are aware of the number of electrons transferred, then we can multiply this number with the mass of each electron to get how much mass is transferred from a body to another. And we have already understood that negatively charged bodies will increase their mass and positively charged bodies will decrease their mass. And we can always calculate the magnitude of the mass which is changed.